No, I have completely and bizarrely messed up. I don't know how that happened. Okay, here. Let's go. There's the podcast.
Okay. Well, welcome to Mixed Media. We are a weekly podcast, live streamed and on all of your live streaming here on YouTube and Twitch and Rumble, and also put out on every podcasting platform out there. And we are a live podcast where we talk about all things related to music, both in general and in our specific fields. So welcome to tonight's live show. If you are watching live, and if you are watching live, make sure you give us a like on YouTube or whatever the equivalent is on the platform you are using, and definitely comment. We love having people comment so we can interact with our audience. Yeah. So before we get started, let's introduce ourselves. We're going to go a little bit out of order because if you're watching live and you have watched this show before, you'll notice that we have a black square that direction, where our normal leader is, but he's having some not exactly technical difficulties. Like it sounds like missing gear. So yeah. So we'll go out of order. Out of our normal order. So my name is Ben Costello. I'm a flute player and a media composer.
I guess I'll go next. My name is Irving Nestor. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur, and I left my camera back at my parents' place, so I'm a black square for now.
A talking black square.
Yes.
I'm Nathan Nestor. I'm a 3D modeler and game developer.
All right. So once again, yes, Irving looks like he's demonstrating our live whiteboard. I'm not sure what he's trying to draw. I guess he's pointing drawing an arrow to himself. Well, that calls attention to the fact that we have a live whiteboard. If you're watching live, you are able to draw on that. With anything you want within the bounds of decency and appropriateness as determined by us. If you support us on locals, which you can do, and shout out to Rob Sharma and 909 Crime, who are two of our supporters on our locals page. You can find the link in our description to all of everything that has to do with our podcast, to our Discord where we keep discussions going throughout the week, to all the places you can access our podcast, and also to our locals page where you can support us and gain access to that live whiteboard if you choose to, which nobody has ever taken advantage of, but it exists anyway. So exists for you to take advantage of. Yeah. Let's see.
Yes,
I'm not forgetting any. Am I forgetting anything?
No, I don't think so. I think you got everything. The only thing, only other housekeeping note is welcome to the people who are on Samsung Podcast. I finally got everything, or I think it's called Samsung Cast. I don't know what the branding on it is, but it's whatever podcasting platform Samsung owns. Has just finally gone live, and our platform, our feed properly connects to them now. So we have a new audience, and I know that they're arrived because the moment that I connected it up, got some downloads from Samsung Podcast. That was pretty cool.
I didn't even know that Samsung Podcast exists.
I didn't either.
I think it's literally new. I think they just just rolled it out. Yeah.
Is it live or only on demand audio?
It's only on demand. It's just like every other podcasting platform. Honestly, okay. I don't really know why one uses one podcasting platform over another, other than maybe your phone came with it already, or it has some random nice features. I mean, I currently use Podbean because that's what our podcast is hosted off of, and so it's the native platform, but there's not really a reason for that other than that. So yeah, but I guess Samsung decided that it was beneficial to roll out their own for whatever reason.
Okay. Well, I guess one thing I forgot. Sorry, I don't think I've ever opened up the podcast before, so I apologize for missing anything. I think I neglected to mention that yes, we are a weekly podcast every Monday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. That's when we stream live, as in right now. Okay, I think I got
Yes.
everything in there. So before we get started, how were your weeks?
My week was kind of crazy because, well, the reason why I left the my camera, or the camera I used as my webcam, at my parents' place is because I went to Jersey uh, for my cousin's wedding, because my cousin got married. So that was pretty cool. Ended up not using the camera at all, but but left it there, which is horrible. But kind of sucked like 3 days out of the week, so just was very busy. But the actual wedding itself was pretty great. So yeah, shout out to the new married couple out there. Besides that, I don't think there's that much. I think it was just a. Oh, I forgot to say. Finally finished specking out the revenue side of my esports project. If you're new to the podcast, well, I don't mention that often, but sparsely I'll mention that I'm working on a pitch project for an esport broadcast and an esport league, and it's been a huge endeavor, and hit a huge milestone of finishing the preliminary modeling of the revenue side, and it's much better than I expected, which is pretty great. So, yeah, that's pretty much what's been happening on my side.
Yeah, I went to the same wedding. I don't really think much happened the prior week. I wasn't here for 2 weeks actually, so I can't remember what happened the week prior, but I don't think it was anything that eventful really. So
Yeah, I don't think anything too remarkable happened for me in the last week. I've been dealing with a lot of right hand pain, um, and
Mm.
have kept me from playing flute as much as I want to over the weekend. But that's nothing else notable other than that. Um, yeah.
But random question: is it because of playing the flute, or is it just
That's a great question, and I don't know the answer to that.
uh,
I am, trying to get in touch with people I can, talk to about this and see if we can figure out whether it is related to the flute or whether just playing flute bothers my right thumb. It like definitely hurts with other things too, like holding this, gripping the steering wheel of my car is really bothering me.
mm, mm,
So I don't know.
yeah? Hopefully, it goes away.
Hopefully, yeah. Um, okay, so that's it for me. So how about news in the art world for the past week? Um, I will just say mine quickly, which is to say that the news I would have shared is going to be contained in my segment in a few minutes. So I will skip that. I have to keep watching for a few minutes past our news segment to get to that. But it is about the film Werewolf by Night and the score for that.
Sweet.
I don't have much news. I guess something that's kind of funny that happened is Valve released some promotional video for their Steam Deck, and they had to take it down because I believe it showed an image or like a video of someone's Steam library on the Steam Deck, and it had a Switch emulator on it, which I mean, I don't really think it's that big of a deal, but all the Switch emulator is completely legal and whatever. So yeah, I don't really think it's a big deal, but apparently they thought it was a big deal, so they removed it. But aside from that, there were some somebody got obtained the ability to send. I guess probably had the ability already. Well, someone probably within Rockstar or 2K Games or either a hacker was able to send emails to the 2K Games and Rockstar mailing list that included malware in it apparently. both companies are owned by what's it called? Take-Two Interactive. So that would explain why they're both. It probably was like a combined like Take-Two database or something that had all the emails in it, and a bunch of gamers got sent some malicious software. As far as I'm aware, nothing really bad happened. I don't know how if it was like obviously like some malware or was like a poorly attempted phishing scam, as many emails are. So yeah, I don't really know, but yeah, that happened. So be on the lookout for that, I guess, if you or have your email connected with any Take-Two stuff.
Sweet. For me, I haven't been paying too much attention, but one cool thing is there's an NFT project called VFriends, which is a Gary V NFT project, and one that I've been following, one that I regret not buying into, frankly. I tried to last minute when I realized, that it probably was the only NFT project I would ever consider buying. Um, and it has like stably 20x'd its value, and I'm like, I saw it coming, but I didn't act in time, which kind of sucks, but it is what it is. He just launched a partnership with that NFT project with Toys R Us, and I want to say, what was the other one? I think it was some developer, actually, for some app or something like that, some game. And I think if anyone wants to see a good example of how to do NFTs properly, and like the promise of the technology and not the fugazi, like, nonsense, hype over value of nonsensical values. And frankly, the VFriends values don't make much sense either, but, there's a fundamentals actually underneath them, which I find very interesting. So if you want to see a project that I think is actually the proper use of the technology, you can go look at VFriends. And that's not sponsored at all. I don't even own VFriends, unfortunately. So, but yeah, so I thought that was cool because that was a big step. And then the only other random thing I noticed was, just scrolling through the headlines, looks like it's a slow news week. But the only other thing I noticed was Neil deGrasse Tyson taking apart Top Gun Maverick, which I think is completely unnecessary. Reminds me of when what's that YouTube channel called? I really don't.
CinemaSins?
Yeah, CinemaSins was super popular, and like everyone's just like, happy to like just take apart random details from things that don't matter at all. And the one tweet that he put out, I thought was funny. He says, the opening scene is Maverick going Mach 10 in like some test platform, and he says his ejection would have, quote, his body splattered like a chainmail glove swatting a worm, which is very colorful. I'll give him that. But also like yeah, a lot of things would kill people in the movie. A lot of things would get the pilots killed. And I'm not sure that the ejection actually happens on Mach 10, which is what actually annoyed me the most about it. Was like, I think the implied thing is that he had come down from Mach 10 in trying to maneuver the aircraft. If you know anything about aircraft, the moment you start maneuvering it from really high speeds like that, the moment you're going to bleed speed very quickly. So, if he's trying to recover the aircraft, the likelihood that he's rejecting actually at Mach 10 is pretty unlikely. But it doesn't matter because the whole thing is ridiculous. So why pick out...
if you eject at like Mach 8.5, is it really going to be that much safer for your body?
No. That would also kill you, definitely. No, I'm just saying, I don't know. I mean, it's entirely possible, I guess, that by the end of the sequence that he's like subsonic, potentially, I guess. I don't know.
Okay, because I thought that was kind of funny because it's just like lands in the middle of the desert and walks into like a random like diner in the middle of a desert.
Yes, that would definitely not be happening.
Basically nothing happened to him. Like he was driving a car and like his wheels touched the curb. Like, oh no, I can go on, get a drink at the local diner. Shake it off.
You're absolutely correct. For those of you who don't know, ejection is quite a extreme thing. and you come back shorter sometimes. That's how extreme it is. So
He gets ejected a couple of times in the film too, right?
That's true.
Like at the end. It
this
doesn't
true.
happen like literally what I think maybe like twice in the last like 10 minutes of the film. Maybe only once.
I think in the Air Force, you can only be ejected twice before you're actually forced out of the Air Force, right? Or
I think that's
being a flying pilot.
I think that is correct, unless you're Maverick, then you never get kicked out of the Air Force.
He's sustained more than two.
Exactly. But yeah, just a random tidbit I found on the internet. That's all. All right.
Is that all we've got?
That's all I got.
All right. So, thanks for watching this first segment. Don't worry, if you're watching live, we just roll right into the next segment. But we also conveniently have a space where we, announce the next segment, so we can easily split it up into separate segments on the the non-live podcast, normal podcast format. So thanks for listening to the introduction section of today's Mixed Media Podcast.
All right, and let's transition to music.
All right.
Here we go.
Mixed Media Music.
All right, and welcome to Mixed Media Music, the segment of our Mixed Media Podcast where I will, with some assistance from my co-host, will talk about things related to music with a focus normally on film, video game music, and classical music, but touching broader things than that as well. Again, as part of the Mixed Media Podcast, a weekly podcast live streamed every Monday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time and available on every podcasting platform out there. So welcome if you're joining us for this segment, and hello again to those who are still with us watching live. And today, well, let's introduce ourselves. So my name is Ben Costello. I'm a flute player and a media composer.
And my name is Irving Nestor. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur, and I own a company called Ariella, and I am a black square for today.
Yes, Irving is a black square. If you are watching this podcast, don't get to see him.
And I'm Nathan Nestor. I'm a 3D modeler and game developer.
All right. So, for today's show, I'm going to be talking about the score for Disney and Marvel's new, I guess they call it a TV film, which is a little bit of a strange thing to call something on Disney Plus, a streaming service. But I guess that's the term that seems to be the technical term that seems to be given to it. So this TV film by Marvel on Disney Plus called Werewolf by Night, which is both directed and with score by Michael Giacchino. Okay.
Wait, he directed the film?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes, he directed this.
I had no idea.
Music for it. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of probably the most interesting thing about it. This came out on October 7th. It's only like 52 minutes long. So honestly, I might just go. I haven't seen it, but it's short enough that like I might watch it tonight before I go to bed. Not that I have any interest in Marvel or this kind of genre, this monster movie genre, but it's short enough and interesting enough for a variety of reasons, which we'll get into, that I might just go ahead and watch it. I did read the plot synopsis of this on Wikipedia, and I did not understand it at all. Which, to be fair, plot synopses of films are often a little bit confusing when you read them. Like one or two paragraph form on like Wikipedia or something like that. But this one I found especially like I think it just sounded like we're a bunch of monsters and monster hunters, and somebody's a werewolf, and a bunch of people die.
So
That was my.
just to verify, is this his directorial? Oh wait, I'm on IMDb. He's directed other things. That's so fascinating. Oh, the other ones are short films.
Yeah, this is like his major like directorial debut, is my understanding.
Wow.
So Giacchino, most well known for his work on Pixar films like Up, like films like Ratatouille, Star Wars Rogue One, is composer for Lost, The Incredibles. I'm sure I'm leaving out a lot of important things. Star Trek, the recent Star Trek films. Um, he's works very closely with J.J. Abrams. So much so that when he was not able to score J.J. Abrams' Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, because obviously John Williams had to compose that by mandate of Disney. J.J. Abrams, who is a very good friend of his, had him play, like a stormtrooper or something. I think it was a stormtrooper in the film. Also like the Jurassic World films. So one of the biggest composers in Hollywood. But this project seems like it's kind of fulfilling, his initial childhood ambitions. If you know anything about his childhood, he talks about how, like, from a very young age, he was fascinated by combining music with visual media, and he and his brother, who's also a documentary filmmaker, they would like make stop motion things and like write music for it themselves. He actually didn't study music like as an undergraduate either. He went to a film school in New York and took classes at night at Juilliard, but like the main thing was working on like being a director. And he then got involved with like interning at Disney's like video game arm, I think, and got into video games and video game design. And he says that his ultimate goal then was to create his own video game and write the music for it, so he could have fully realize his artistic vision. But then experienced a ton of success as a composer and kind of left the video game creation and directing film world largely behind. But he was asked to do this. I don't know all the circumstances for how he got involved in this. I do, just from reading the Wikipedia page, it was already like in pre-production, or not necessarily pre-production, but it had already been some development on the project for a few months before, and then they brought him in as the director. So it wasn't his, like, I don't think he pitched the idea. Yes.
Stephanie Costello in the chat says the film has 92% score on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, I did see that it's gotten pretty good audience reviews. So, yeah, I guess he is kind of realizing what he wanted to do as a child and as a young professional, have kind of overall like artistic vision, control, and also the ability to realize that vision with his own music, which is a really interesting thing if you pause and think about it, because music is one of those elements that a lot of directors struggle with, because and it's why a lot of times big directors will find like a composer that they like to work with. They don't have most directors don't have much control over the musical side of things. They can have ability to like approve or reject what the composer comes up with, but they're kind of handing that off, right? They can kind of describe in words what kind of music they want and give examples of it. You should sound something like this, but most directors don't have the ability to actually write notes on a piece of paper, and if they did, they probably would do it. So here we get an example of a short film, TV film, I guess, like I said, as its build. But still a larger project, 50 some minutes long, where the director's musical vision, in theory, should be perfectly realized because the director is also literally the composer and is also one of the top composers in Hollywood. So for that reason, I kind of want to watch it, just because I want to see how the music, fits into this like clearly very one would assume very integrated vision, right, of the work as a whole. But since I haven't seen it, we're just going to focus on the music itself. Okay, so like I said, my impression of the plot is that it's a bunch of some guy is a werewolf. I don't think he knows he's a werewolf, and there are a bunch of monsters and people who are monster hunters, and a lot of people end up dead at the end. That's kind of all I could understand out of the plot. Now, Wikipedia also gives us some indications of critical response, and the critical response tends, at least what Wikipedia presents, tends to kind of criticize the film. The thrust of most of these criticisms seems to be that the film is fine, but it doesn't really develop the non-main, secondary characters enough, and it doesn't. It's an atmospheric film, but it doesn't really go like all in on the trope. It like kind of only goes like 75% of the way there, and like fully embracing this monster movie trope within Marvel somehow. But lots of critical praise for the score. Everyone saying the score is like the standout element of it. The score is what makes the thing work, and that the score is what really sets the atmosphere very well. Well, again, I can't necessarily speak to the score in comparison to the acting and all that, because I haven't seen it. But my thought on listening to this is I kind of wonder if the music is really not, if those criticisms of the film are true. I wonder whether those criticisms also match the music. Does the music really embrace the genre in like the fullest possible manner, most extreme, over the top manner? And if the secondary characters are really not developed, is the music kind of matching that too? Like, is it are things like thematic elements, are they not really that as developed as they could be, but like done okay for like something that's short? So that's kind of my question about it. Because in listening to it, I thought it was good, but I wasn't like blown away by the score for this. So let's talk a little bit more about it. So yeah, the score, it's definitely using a lot of tropes of both horror, a couple things: horror, noir, and monster movies. I think we're borrowing tropes from all these things, and I would say that Giacchino is pretty good at borrowing tropes and like using them when appropriate, but never making it like really heavy-handed. And this didn't feel incredibly heavy-handed either. I think if you really know some of these genres of film music, it's not hard to find some of these these borrowings from the stereotypical musical gestures. So they're not really distracting, but I think you can definitely find them if you're out there listening for them and you're familiar with these genres. But again, to me, it's borrowing from all three of these, and maybe that's the right thing for the film. It's monster movie and some element of horror and some element of like noir mystery. So maybe that is good for the film, or maybe it's not. Maybe it's maybe that's kind of what contributes to my impression of it kind of not fully realizing any of these things, right? It's kind of borrowing from different tropes from different genres, but not embracing one as much as I think maybe would be appropriate if so that's kind of my sense. It just felt like it's kind of in this no man's land of like borrowing from a lot of different things, but not really taking one direction, one tone, and running with it. In general, there's a pretty good deal of aleatoric music. Aleatoric meaning chance or random. And the way there are lots of ways one can do that in music if you are a 20th century composer. But if you're writing something, for instance, like for film, where you need like kind of precise, indications like what happens while still allowing chance, you'll see things. And like I think what they do here is just like here's some notes, like play these notes in whatever order you want, whatever speed you want, and whatever octave you want, for like these 3 measures kind of thing. That's pretty much all the woodwinds are there for. There's very little woodwinds in this. It's mostly strings, synth, and brass. Now, aleatoric music is very common in horror things, horror movies, and also just in general with like things that have a horror flavor in them. There's a lot of that kind of stuff like I just described, like play random patterns for a specified amount of time, especially like in a kind of example of something that's not a horror film but uses it a lot would be John Williams' story for The Prisoner of Azkaban, where get a ton of that for the music for the Dementors. So it sounds really creepy. It sounds, random and uncontrolled, although there's some element of like authorial control to it, and that tends to work really well, like playing random patterns, do whatever you want for a specified amount of time, tends to create, especially if you combine it with some other stereotypical like horror effects, it tends to create a really unsettling effect on the listeners. There's plenty of that in this. And then there's also, like I said, there's this kind of noir feel of like mystery, but it also has some like action moments in it, which is not really typical of any of these genres per se. Not really typical of like a monster film or noir, where noir scores, this that I'm familiar with, and also like neo-noir, like Chinatown, they tend to kind of be there and not really, there's not a ton of like big action scenes. Whereas clearly there's some like, this is still a Marvel production and it's part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so we have to have some like big Hollywood action. So and Giacchino does that really well, and I think those parts of the score are really effective. And it has moments of like clear narrative function. Again, I without seeing it, I can't tell you exactly what the function is, but I think it's pretty clear that like the music is going in particular narrative directions, and it's trying to follow a narrative, and it's not just kind of creating this atmosphere of like dark and gritty mystery of a noir or like horror tension, like what the music is there to tell us that something terrifying is about to happen next. You should be afraid for what's about to happen, even though the characters don't know that they're about to be killed by a gigantic monster or whatever. So yeah, it has that kind of narrative element that is the narrative element is pretty easy to identify if you listen to a lot of film scores, I think, and that's not typical of these genres, but I think it is very typical of Giacchino's work. And it does have a lot of moments of it's like purely atmospheric stuff as well. And And so again, I guess that's all. This is all just a long way of saying that like it's kind of embracing multiple genres and then also stepping outside of these genres. So it's kind of like four things at once. And yeah, now I started thinking, asking myself, I was writing my notes and like, well, I was saying that noir tends not to be narrative with its scores, and I had to ask myself, is that necessarily true? And noir tends, in my opinion, I think it kind of rides in this land between like purely atmospheric and narrative. But it's normally not like it's not going to tell you like a good noir score or neo noir like Chinatown. It's not going to tell you, you know, um, it's not going to give away like moments of suspense. I don't think. It's going to kind of ride in the same sort of atmosphere until something happens. It's not a horror film where the music is telling you should be prepared for something scary to happen, or something big to happen. That is not what happens in the music of. And coming back to Chinatown because it's such an incredible film and incredible score. That's not what happens. Before a big moment, the music is just where it was. And I think that's quite effective because in some ways it's more true to life. Characters don't go around with like in real life you don't walk around with a soundtrack telling you should be preparing for something big and scary to happen in 30 seconds, right? Although there are narrative elements to that score, right? But the kind of confined to like the romance scenes. So kind of stepping outside of like the pure mystery thriller aspects of it. Yeah, and there are some melodies to this score for Werewolf by Night, especially the main theme, which Giacchino. If you look at his film soundtracks, he's kind of notorious for using bad puns in naming his tracks. For instance, the end credits of The Incredibles is titled the in credits because bad puns like that, intentionally bad puns. So for this, we have the main titles, main being spelled M-A-N-E, like a lion, I suppose, or some kind of monster. The end credits are called end shredits. So plenty of that in the soundtrack, the labeling the tracks. But in particular, the main titles has a very, it certainly has melodic material in it. I'm not sure that it really gets developed that prominently or that, in a way that's that important to what's going on, but it's certainly like a melodic-ish moment. Though the melody kind of spirals back, it doesn't really go anywhere. It kind of moves and then spirals back to its own beginning. So there's not really any motion to it. And it seems like it's melodic material. I'm not sure I would necessarily call it a melody, though, because it's just kind of a self-loop. Not that that's a problem. But, so we have like moments of clearly narrative function in the music, but not like a lot of thematic development. This is obviously our main theme, and I don't think it really does anything, or at least nothing terribly obvious, without really kind of delving into like a harmonic motion and stuff. Maybe does impact that if I really sat down and thought about it. So yeah, my overall impression is that like I said, it seems really interesting. I'm interested in it to see what is the music is what all the critics at least are praising about the film, um, and I'd really be interested to see how it works with um, with the all the other elements of the film, which are also controlled by Giacchino, right? How does the music really fit into his total vision? And it's really his vision as the director. Um, but my sense is that it's all fine. Um, it's certainly different music than anything else in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Although I think it's also the point about the film. It's a totally different genre than they've ever tried to explore before. But I wonder, maybe would, and I'll have to answer this myself when after I watch this. I will post my thoughts on this on our Discord. So again, plug to join our Discord. So you can see that. But my intuition tells me that just as so, at least the criticism that I've seen on Wikipedia anyway, of not really developing like the side characters and really just and not fully embracing the monster genre. This has kind of got the squares again. It does everything pretty well, but it's got its feet in a bunch of different genres and doesn't kind of go all in on either or any of them. And perhaps for that reason is less effective. Perhaps for that reason stands out, a little bit less than it could. Yeah, that's my thought just on listening to the music.
Very, very interesting. It does sound like something that is at least interesting to even though it's a Marvel thing. At least it's very different.
Yeah, yeah,
Interesting that the guy is the director. That's kind of
yeah.
crazy.
I
Honestly, it's a lot of work.
Oh yeah, I imagine it was a ton of work on his end. Yeah, I'm also interested in like, how and why uh whoever was running this, presumably Feige had his hand in it in some way.
Mm-hmm.
Why they approached him of all people for this project. I'd like to know more about that.
For sure. Sweet. Is that it?
That's all I have.
Cool, cool. Is it okay if we actually go on to the gaming segment next, Nathan? Is that chill with you?
I guess.
Yeah, because I've got to step away for just a minute to use the bathroom, but I'll be back.
Okay.
Sweet.
All right. Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us for Mixed Media Music, and if you're watching live, stick around for Nathan and his thoughts on gaming and game development.
Sweet. All right, here we go.
Mixed Media Gaming.
Welcome back to Mixed Media Podcast. This is the gaming segment. Yeah, a bit everywhere right now because I'm scrambling through my notes. I'm not prepared to do the topic at the moment. If you're watching right now on video podcast, then Irving's a black square because he has no camera at the moment. Yeah, I forgot we should probably introduce ourselves. So I'm Nathan Nestor. I'm a 3D modeler and a game developer.
Hi, I'm Ben Costello. I'm a flute player and a media composer.
I don't know if Irving went to the bathroom. I think he did. Okay, well, right. So I'll be doing the mixed media topic segment today. I'll be talking about why video game development studios fail. I don't want to give a very. There are like a whole, a ton of articles and views about this. I don't want to give a very generic reading on this. I think there are some topics that aren't often brought up enough about this subject that are really important when understanding, why do a lot of video game companies go bankrupt or, go out of business when, that it seems like the video games industry is a very successful industry and very popular, makes a lot of money, and it seems very odd that this would be happening. So here's a little background for the issue. Firstly, we've seen the fall of a lot of big game development studios. Perhaps one of the craziest, even though it's kind of an old thing that happened a long time ago, is Atari. Now, technically, Atari still exists. They do not exist in the same capacity at all. They're not quite as relevant, quite a lot less relevant than they were before, even though they technically exist. Now, go back to a time when Atari was prominent, and the idea that Atari would go bankrupt seems suddenly very far-fetched. At least when you think about it from knowing, like having the sort of knowledge of how a successful video games industry would be. I guess at the time when Atari was doing its thing and being big, the industry wasn't necessarily as solidified, especially at the early stages of Atari. But if you imagine the foresight of knowing how successful the video games industry would be, you might think, oh, well, Atari is like one of the first on this trend, and there's absolutely no way, and they have a big foot in the door here. There's no way they're gonna go bankrupt. And I don't know if they actually went bankrupt technically, but they are not very present anymore. At least in the video, instead they definitely don't. They're not really in the games making. Well, okay, in the games making business, but not in the same way. If I understand correctly, there are actually two companies that Atari split into. One of them, which you can still call Atari, one of them is like Atari, but not Atari. I don't know. I can't quite remember what the difference between the two are and what they do exactly. Another more recent one would be Telltale Games, the creators of the Walking Dead series. Not the show, of course, but the video game adaptation of it. Hugely successful studio, hugely successful game, yet they still went bankrupt. Or once again, I don't know if it's technically bankrupt. I think it was. At the very least, they went out of business due to financial issues. So almost certainly they went bankrupt. And yeah, for some more context, there are a lot of creators of a lot of original games that don't really exist anymore. So, for example, the original creators for games like Tomb Raider, Mortal Kombat, Blur, Command and Conquer, and the original Star Wars Battlefront, they don't exist anymore. Even though the series exists at the moment, it could be that, for example, I can't remember who. Wow, I'm brain farting on who develops the Tomb Raider games nowadays. But studios have changed, IPs have been bought and transferred. So that's why you still see, there's a Star Wars Battlefront 2 made by DICE. Presumably, because I assume I can't remember the name of the original creators, but assuming probably they didn't own the entire rights, right? I assume Disney or Lucasfilm or however it works, or LucasArts is the one who's is able to say who can create things with the Battlefront IP and who can't. So that's how DICE has it. But all these, I don't know if Blur still exists. Is there ever I actually don't know if there's a Blur sequel, to be honest. But at least all the other games still kind of exist under other companies. And in the video games industry, we do see a really high turnover rate for companies. So I have some really rough numbers here, but essentially in the United States, about 0.06% of companies every year go bankrupt. Now, if you compare this to the video games industry alone in the United States, or technically, sorry, we're kind of comparing apples to oranges, kind of, but not quite. So the 0.06% figure is for the United States bankruptcy rate. Now the other figure I'm about to reference is for the entire world rate of video games studios becoming defunct. It's not quite the same as bankrupt. So you can say, technically, it's easier to become defunct than it is to become bankrupt because you don't technically need to lose all your money to go out of business. Although that's probably what's happening if you're going out of business. But that rate would be 0.3%. So that's like 0.06% to 3%. That's like 5-time difference, I believe. If I did the math right. Yeah. So you see 5 times as many video game studios. That figure is actually a 5-year average for the last 5 years. Although video game studio defunct rate has been going lower and lower, apparently. So you could say that the issue is solving itself and that these numbers are actually perhaps a bit deflated as to what they would normally be. So yeah, 0.3% for video game studios in general, and 0.06% for all companies in the United States are bankrupt. So, what are the actual issues going on here? Now, I said this before, and I'm definitely not the only person who said this. You'll probably hear it again from me. Actually, you'll certainly hear this again from me because I do talk about it a lot. I think it's super, super important. It is marketing, of course. Once again, I did say at the beginning, I didn't really want this to be very generic, like overview of the topic, but more things that people don't tend to understand. But I guess it's somewhat generic just to give context to what I'm going to say next. Is the issue with marketing is marketing is a multifaceted thing, right? It is marketing. A lot of people think that marketing is just advertisements and stuff like that, and just promotions. Marketing actually, the marketing department of companies actually take care of a lot of different functions, from things like the actual product itself. So what does the product look like? What are its actual functions? The marketing team in a lot of companies will actually have a say in that kind of stuff. I did talk about before, like the packaging of the item. Things like the price. What's the price? The marketing team, in some cases, might be the department is solely responsible, or not necessarily solely, because they probably answer up to some higher executive, but at least is mostly responsible for the pricing decisions. And things like, where can you actually get the product? Is it online or in-store retail? And if so, where? Stuff like that. A lot of that is just the marketing department, or the marketing department has a really big hand in how that's chosen. So marketing is the definition of marketing is a good marketing is having a good ability to deliver value to customers. So however that is, right, is not necessarily just promotion, creating like promotional content and advertisements, stuff like that. So the video game industry lacks a lot of that, unfortunately. The video games industry, I think the reason why is because it's a relatively new medium and a relatively new space, that being the digital space, and it seems like not everyone has figured out the digital marketing space yet. I mean, there are certainly a lot of, say, Instagram influencers, whatever, who have figured they've cracked the Instagram code and can push Instagram accounts from 0 to 100,000 followers, whatever, in some relatively short amount of time. Sure. Talking about video games, though, it's a much broader context, right? It's not like the context of like one platform that's easily gameable. It's the entire internet, right? And it also spills out into the physical space as well, because we're also selling physical medium, and also advertisements exist in physical places. You can buy things in physical places for the video games industry, all that kind of stuff. So I think I often don't take full advantage of that kind of stuff. Aside from that, I think something that's more talked about, but not quite like this, is a lack of discoverability in terms of video games. It's definitely talked about in the sense that people always say, "Oh, your game wasn't successful because you didn't get front page on Steam, or you had no news coverage and things like this." First one, the Steam store front page thing, yeah, kind of true. This front page definitely helps a lot. Now, as for traditional, traditional as in like digital, but digital traditional news outlets, these don't actually play as big a part as they used to anymore. People don't read these things as much anymore, and they tend to sort of cater to mainstream audiences and won't post your indie game as much. But of course, if you're a big AAA studio, these things can be quite good for you. So yeah, the inherent issues is really have a limited amount of free space capable of advertising your content, whether it be the Steam front page, like so many games that can fit on the front page, and you need to figure out how to get yourself on that front page. Same goes for media outlets, as I was saying before, is they only have a limited amount of time and effort they're going to spend on writing articles about various different games, and they know that their viewers only like certain things, and a certain amount of them. They're not going to post like 1,000 videos on Five Nights at Freddy's, right? They're probably going to stop getting as many reads after like the first few, and it starts to get really old. They only have a finite amount of slots for different topics and whatnot. Now, I've been running a project I think I mentioned it before. I've been running a project where I've been doing some data scraping on the video game news outlets. So I've been collecting literally every single news article I can find. No, it's all automated. I don't do this myself, but in an automated way, I collect all sorts of articles from everywhere I can find, from PC Gamer to Kotaku to Rock Paper Shotgun, whatever. And what I found is that coverage is really really boiled down to three big topics. And if you're not or three big categories. Now, if you're not in any of these categories, it can be exceedingly hard for you to get into one of these mainstream sources. Those are big games, so like things like Call of Duty, for example, big companies such as EA, and big consoles such as Xbox. If your game is not big, if your company's not big, and you're not really relevant to any sort of big console, usually those things are like, the new the Xbox can do this thing or whatever, something like related to a console like that, or this title is coming to PlayStation as an exclusive. See, now that you technically don't need a big game or big company to be an exclusive, technically speaking, although it's likely to turn the game into a big game. That's because it's a big console. It's for a big console, and it'll get a lot of press coverage, in part at least. That's why. Sorry for hearing like background noises. I think my neighbor just started shouting. I don't know if you hear that.
I'm back, by the way. So.
Okay, welcome back. Yeah. Coverage is going to be really hard to get into, even though, I don't know how many people read these things nowadays anymore as much. It's going to be really hard to get into these traditional art spaces. Now, note that I don't actually do any data analysis on other media sources, like YouTube, for example, where technically I do some data analysis on IGN's YouTube channel only, but that's a special case. I don't really explain why that is. But I don't do any sort of, data aggregation on how many people are making videos on X game or whatever. That's something really useful that I'd like to do in the future, but now it's just outside the scope of the project. And I would say that those types of content, things from Let's Players and reviewers, is miles more important than having your game in a news article by IGN. Now, this is more of a feeling, less of I know this for sure, just based on the fact that I don't know how many people read IGN, and still to this day it bewilders me that these things still exist. Now, I'm not saying there's no place for them, I'm not saying they're bad. It's just that when I talk to people about these things, I just don't find people who read these things. So I'm like, how are they making money right now? Who is their audience? Although I'm certain that they exist. But I think there's also, aside from just intuition telling me that, it's very clear that there's a lot you can do when it comes to YouTube marketing that you can't do in news article style marketing. For example, one way to easily getting yourself to on a YouTube channel is to give a free key to a YouTuber. Now, it does not mean if you give a free key to PewDiePie, he's going to play your game. Almost certainly he's not going to, because I'm certain he gets crazy amounts of free keys on the daily, right? He doesn't have time to do these kinds of things. He's probably going to cherry pick by the ones he's most interested in and whatever. But if you contacted smaller streamers, doesn't mean someone with 2 subscribers, but something with someone who has a fan base that's reachable, whose target audience matches yours. That's really nice about YouTube, is that you can find the creator who you figure has the exact target audience you're looking for. Whereas with media outlets, who is IGN catered towards? Okay, I'm sure there's actually an audience. That audience, I'm certain is more broad than strategy fanatics or whatever, lovers of I don't know, Hearts of Iron, like that, right? You're not going to find that kind of a niche audience if you're trying to target something very specific. Whereas with YouTube channels, you're a lot more likely to find that. Now, there are smaller news media outlets that you can give keys to, and they might cover the game. But you'll find that you're not going to be reaching as many people when you do this. Not because just because the media outlets I figure for articles are a lot smaller than a lot of YouTubers nowadays, because it would seem to me that a lot of these written article companies have a lot, I don't want to say higher standards, but they have a lot higher requirements for actually playing your game. So you might give them a free key, and they might have, say, 10,000, I don't know, whatever they say, subscribers, right? emailed their articles, whatever, every week or whatever, and they have 10,000 subscribers, you might be able to find a equivalent 10,000 subscriber channel on YouTube, and the YouTuber you might find is a lot more likely to actually cover the game than the news media, the article outlet. I don't know why, but it's just how it is. So I think those are some things that a lot of people don't cover when they talk about the fact that marketing is, not really used to its fullest. There are a lot more things I could say about that, but that's just the general thing. Aside from marketing, there's like sort of poor management is a really big issue in a lot of bigger studios. Oh, one thing we have to say about marketing actually. This is not necessarily the fault of anybody really, but just the marketing budgets in video games tend to be a lot lower than the marketing budget of things like movies, for example. Like, there are a lot of movies where you'll find it really hard to find a person who just doesn't know it exists if they're like, digitally connected in any way. Whereas video games is a lot easier for really popular games to fly under your radar. Like, I'm sure a lot of people don't know that there's a new Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, is a thing. Now, if you're in the video games industry, certainly you know about this game, right? But I wouldn't expect like the average person who has no idea about video games to know anything about this necessarily. That being said, I went, for like a new Marvel movie, for example. I think it's a lot more common for someone to know about it. Why? Because it's all over the place. Now, one might make the argument that, well, it's also a cultural thing, and that what's it called? I almost said Avatar, not Avatar. The Avengers, I would say, is a lot bigger of a cultural staple, perhaps. It's something that people tend to talk about more, and so you get like sort of like organic growth that way, rather than like, also like having, I don't know if you call it inorganic, but the media shoved in your face on TV and on the internet and billboards, whatever. But at the very least, I've never seen a Modern Warfare 2 billboard. I never expected to see one. That'd be wild. That'd be bizarre to me if I ever saw one. I'm sure there's probably one that exists somewhere. I don't know why. It sounds like something that would just exist, but I'm sure they don't exist in any large quantity. Like I wouldn't be surprised if I saw a Marvel. I didn't say Marvel, not Avengers. Avengers is Marvel, but I meant Marvel in general. If I saw a Marvel poster for like a billboard for a Marvel movie, I would not be surprised in any capacity that exists. So, yeah. Aside from marketing, is also just like the general handling of business. Seems way worse in the video industry than a lot of other industries. So I did it at the very beginning. I brought up Telltale Games. Now, Telltale Games, on paper, seem to have everything going for it, right? Like they released The Walking Dead, major success. They had was it a Stranger Things deal with or in the works with Netflix? I can't remember if Stranger Things.
Yes, that was in the works.
Stranger Things. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Stranger Things deal with Netflix. When Stranger Things was probably like peak Stranger Things hype, now you might say, well, how can this thing fail, right? There's no way. Like, it just has like the contracts lined up, right? In the end, I don't remember what they bailed out on the contract for, but just something else. So I was like, it doesn't seem to make sense to me. I can't remember what it was, but now I'm sure Telltale Games folks, the collective knowledge there knows a lot more than me in terms of business. They know, in theory, they probably know what they're doing more than me, I guess. They know the company more for sure. I couldn't, tell you, the exact financial state, or anything of that, leading up to Telltale Games going bankrupt. But I can tell you that was really bad when you have essentially free money lined up and you go bankrupt anyways. Not like $2 of free money, but Netflix levels, Stranger Things levels of free money. I'm sure that contract wasn't small. I don't know if the amount of like the offering was from Netflix was released, but I'm sure it was nothing incredibly small. Now you get how did Telltale Games die? So from what I understand, it was essentially overexpansion, which is a very common thing in video games industry. What happens when you have a really unexpected success, or maybe expected, I don't know, and you go from having maybe it's 2 employees or 15 employees, whatever, and now you have all this money, you think, oh, I gotta expand really fast, to fulfill maybe Netflix wants me to make a game or whatever. let me hire a lot more employees. Let me hire 30 more employees to get that done. I have the money now, and that's great. And sure. But I think this has potentially, this is speculation, may have a similar effect to winning the lottery. So if you don't know, in the United States at least, if you win the lottery, you have a higher chance of going bankrupt after winning the lottery than before you won the lottery. The reason being is that most people don't know how to handle money when they've been handed who knows how much money, hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially, suddenly, right? They can lose it because either they they just blew it on, I don't know, whatever, like fancy things and luxury items, whatever, and they just blew it all without regard for how much they had left, and at some point their card declined, like, oh, it's all gone, without realizing what's happening. There are other reasons why that might happen. It might be family and friends essentially siphon the money from you, or things like that. But I think the most relevant one is that they just don't know how to handle the money, and that is I think the most common one, which is why I don't know if it's all states, but because I know like in the United States the lotteries are held on like a state to state basis. I don't think there are federal lotteries? Question mark? I don't think so. But I think
there are like multi-state ones. I think
there are multi-state ones, but I think like for example like Powerball isn't it branded in New Jersey? Is it New Jersey Powerball or just Powerball? I don't actually know.
I have no idea.
I don't know. I don't buy lottery tickets. So.
Let's just say like at least it's not like it's not a countrywide thing. So per company or whatever you call these things, per entity that does lotteries, in general they tend to say, hey, if you win the lottery, you should get a financial advisor. In fact, we'll provide one for you so that you don't go broke. A lot of people don't do this; they go broke. A lot of people do this and they still go broke. But I'm pretty sure the success rate of not going broke is a lot higher when you have a financial advisor. They'll probably tell you don't do these things that are dumb, that are blatantly dumb. People can, I guess, choose whether they want to do them or not after that. But anyways, that tangent is also to say, a lot of times when these companies get a lot of money, they spend their money either improperly or they don't know how to handle it. So you can imagine that if you're for example, I would say 5-person studio, the dynamics of the 5-person studio are way different than a 30-person studio. Because for a 5-person studio, you might not even have people working on even remotely similar tasks. You might have a programmer here, an artist here, a writer here, a manager here, whatever it is, right? And suddenly, if you throw into like the 30-person developer task, it's like all of a sudden it's like too many cooks in the kitchen, and you're not ready for that. How do you make them work efficiently and well? How do you solve the issue of like oversight? Like, how do you make sure everyone's doing what they need to do and they're not doing, because usually if you have like a 5-person team, chances are everyone's going to be pretty passionate about what they're doing to the point where they're not going to like, hopefully not make like really dumb decisions that might screw over the game, like leading in, like poor coding decisions, for example, that might lead to bugs, and they're probably gonna be like, no, I care about this game. I don't want this to happen. Whereas if you just hire someone who just wants the paycheck and doesn't necessarily have isn't the most passionate about the actual project, they might just do what needs to be done to get the issue solved now, and worry about any bugs later. And then you might get something like Cyberpunk 2077, maybe. You might have issues like that. So I think rapid expansion by companies probably a big reason, because these companies do expand rapidly often. It's not often that you'll see like a company go from like 15 people to like 20, 25. No, it's like 20 to like 50. It's like, okay, you've like over doubled like your employee count. I mean, yes, you can afford this now, but can you actually handle the difference? I think this is probably a big reason why a lot of companies just stop existing, as in the case of Telltale Games and countless other ones. I think in general, my guess from all the stories I've read, statistics I've read, these two reasons are probably the biggest reasons for why video game companies just don't exist for a very long time. Now, there's probably a lot more to poor management than I discussed, other than mishandling finances, but that's a really common trend that I did not expect to see when I was reading a lot of accounts of what's gone down and companies have gone defunct. Yeah, a lot of it also boils down to like overconfidence. It's like, okay, we're doing a really successful first run. Certainly, I can handle like making another smash hit in a similar way. It's like maybe you got kind of lucky the first time. And you thought, oh, my company's like a golden company, but it really wasn't. So you think you can handle either a lot of people, or you can handle going on another ambitious project run, things like that, where you really cannot. I think, personally speaking, as a sort of ending note, that if you actually prove to be successful, like, don't go crazy. Like, live with what you have. Not saying, expansion is good, right? But don't get too overly, not confident. Don't be overly confident, but overly excited, I guess. Don't go all out and like throw yourself into the fire, right? Like probably ease yourself in. It's like doing a workout, for example, right? You don't do like, oh, I can lift this like 2 pound weight. Wow, let me try lifting 100 pounds. That doesn't make any sense. It's not a good idea, probably. I think it's just advice that's probably transferable to most places in the fact that, if it's anything where the amount of it is like in question and whether you can handle it, right? You probably shouldn't go from like an absolutely small amount to an absolutely large amount. Okay, you should probably test yourself at intervals, or else you might just end up, destroying yourself in the process. But yeah, it's pretty much all I have to say. Two big reasons, and yeah, I'm wondering if you guys have any thoughts on like intuitively what you guys think would be other reasons, like big reasons why video game companies would just not be very good at being video game companies, or why. Well, there's also the argument, I should say, that they are actually good and that the consumers are the bad ones. But I didn't discuss that. Maybe I'll discuss that another time.
Oh, go ahead, Ben, if you're going to speak.
No, I'm going to say, I don't know enough about the video game industry to really good answer for that.
Yeah, one thing that I don't understand also is like the relationship between developer and community is often really bad.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I were to say like a honorable mentions, maybe third or fourth reason, like that'd be one of them. I remember, man, was it? It was a console account, like Xbox or something like that. I think it was Twitter. But it's just something like, I don't know. Essentially, they just dissed like single player games. It's like, why would you do that? It just like seems oddly random, It wasn't like I don't think it was like a game like, I don't know. It was like essentially just saying that multiplayer games are better than single player games. Like, I don't know if it was a console account, but if it was a console account, like that is a horrible idea. Given the bad, your target audience is literally, not all gamers, but probably the largest demographic of gamers. You're trying to get everyone in on this, really. So very strange, including single player gamers. Absolutely strange, bizarre idea. Truly, that you diss a group of gamers in like I don't know. I'm sure there are like situations in which it might be acceptable to like diss gamers in like a joking way, But I think the issue didn't come off like as like a I'm just pushing your buttons kind of thing, and more like I'm serious kind of thing, So yeah, I don't know. Like also the thing of like, most games people play, I don't think they know who even makes the game. It's like no public relations thing in that aspect of like it's not like people are like for example, today I played a game called RimWorld. I have no clue who made that game. I'm sure I knew at some point, right? In fact, I can actually visualize their logo, which is kind of funny. But I don't know the name of it. And so if ever there was like a promotional thing having to do with the company, I would have no idea this thing's related unless I saw the logo. That's actually kind of uncommon that I actually recognize the logo. But I don't know. Other games that don't have like prominent, well-known game developers, publishers, I probably wouldn't know. Oh, for example, like thinking of like how like Devolver Digital tends to, they're a publisher, not a developer. They tend to slap their name in front of everything and kind of push the developer aside, right? So I don't know who developed Enter the Gungeon. I know it's published by Devolver Digital, but there is no PR going on with me and the developer because I literally cannot find the developer if I wanted to. Well, I could if I looked up the developer, I guess. But naturally speaking, like if they ever said anything, if they ever tried to send something to me, some message to me, I'd be like, who's that? Yeah.
Yeah, that'd totally be my biggest thing.
I wonder too if there's kind of like a lesson one can draw from Disney, and Star Wars. I've been talking about this and hearing stuff about this in the Star Wars community lately. Because right now Andor is, that's the show that they're out on Disney Plus right now, and Andor is actually good, right? Like Mandalorian is okay, but most of the Disney Plus offerings have been pretty bad. Book of Boba Fett, not good. Obi-Wan Kenobi, not really good. And the difference, Andor, it is miles better in terms of acting, directing, writing, cinematography. They spent way more money. They shot it like on locations instead of just using the volume, like this gigantic like a semicircle green screen, whatever. They actually filmed it on, like built real sets for it. It's actually a good show. And I think it seems like what Disney was kind of doing was they're kind of saying, well, we know that with Boba Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi, we just have to put the title up there and people are going to watch it. So we don't have to put as much effort into it. But Andor, people don't even know who Andor is. So if we're going to get people to watch it, we actually have to try and make it like decent. People are going to watch first episode and continue to watch it. It really does seem like that's the attitude Disney took. Like we don't, we have these properties, or not properties, but within this gigantic property of Star Wars that we paid several $1 billion to acquire. I don't remember the exact price, but it contains things like Obi-Wan and Boba Fett that allow us to not put in much effort for big financial reward. I wonder if there's some like lesson in that for some of these video game studios. Not that the lesson you really want to be drawing is you can be lazy if you have like a really big title and that is going to draw people in, and if you and you have to put more effort in if you don't have someone that's going to be a guaranteed draw. But maybe just like clearly Disney, I think, understands what they have to do. What the amount of effort they have to put into something is in order to get the financial result that they're looking for. So I don't know if there's any lesson in that or not.
I think that's the often like either criticism or praise having to do with like the Call of Duty series is that they kind of know probably what the audience wants at this point, and so they kind of just, one might say, I'm not saying that myself, but the awesome criticism is that they do the bare minimum that satisfies this essentially, and the bare minimum isn't much necessarily. So that satisfies the people who they know will buy the next game every year. Pretty much, and the same with like the FIFA series or general sports series that have yearly iterations, whatever. They just do the bare minimum. Is criticism. I don't actually know about sports games because I haven't played one in a very long time, and actually, I've only ever played, I think, like a single year of a sports game. I never like played the next year, so I actually have no idea what these sort of like evolutions of sports games look like. But yeah, I think you have a point there for sure. And in chat, someone said, okay, so the developers of RimWorld is, I don't know how to pronounce it, Udion Studios, I guess. And Enter the Gungeon was Dodge Roll. It's interesting if you go to dodgeroll.com, their website. I mean, you can go there yourself, and you tell me, does this look like a website for Dodge Roll? If you go there, I don't think it says the word dodge roll anywhere else other than literally the address, like the URL bar. Like you cannot find dodge roll anywhere. You will find Devolver Digital though in many places. Yeah, I think if I control F, do I see dodge roll anywhere? Yes, very bottom. It gives you their like Twitter handle. But otherwise, it just redirects you to a page for Enter the Gungeon alone, and it's just for the game pretty much. And ironically, there are multiple Devolver logos. I don't see a single dodge roll logo. I don't know what their logo is. They might not have one for all I know. Yeah. It says, I think the main indie studios I can actually name on the top of my head are Yacht Club Games, Mossmouth, and Radical Fish. Mossmouth is mainly because of Derek Yu, though. Yeah, I think there are like a very finite amount of indie studios I can name, and they're not even that like unpopular. You know, like they're not like that obscure. So I probably have some more obscure ones I could think of if I really put my mind to it, but it's really hard to.
Yeah.
So,
Cool.
All right. Any thoughts? Any more thoughts, or is that all?
No, that's pretty much the other last thoughts I had.
Okay. Well, thanks for watching the Mixed Media Podcast gaming segment. If you're watching this live, we'll just go on to the next segment, of course. But if you're not watching this live, make sure to subscribe to our channel so you'll see our next segment, which will be Irving and his Arguing with Reddit hot take segment thing. So yeah, thanks for watching.
Mixed Media Movies.
And welcome back to Mixed Media. If you're watching live right now, I am a black square. And the reason why is because I idiotically left my mirrorless camera at my parents' place after visiting them this weekend. So long story short, no webcam for today. However, we still have our weekly hot take segment. And I will be reacting basically to what the other hosts, my co-hosts, have found for me to react to, as well as one that I found for myself. And usually it's a fun time, so I hope you stick around. But before that, we should reintroduce ourselves. So my name is Irving Nestor. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur.
Hello, I'm Ben Costello. I'm a flute player and a media composer.
I'm Nathan Nestor. I'm a 3D modeler and game developer.
Okay, so I'm going to switch the view to our Arguing with Reddit view, but the black square will be in the hot seat, not not my face. So you're going to have to live with that real quick. Yeah, I guess without further ado, I'll pick out my first one here. Let's see who goes first. So I'm going to pull Nathan's first. So Nathan, you want to
stay for now?
What's up?
Afterwards. I said I had to use the bathroom. That's okay. I'll stay until after this one.
Oh no, you can go. I can start with Ben's.
No, it's okay. I don't really in a rush. I mean,
okay.
You already have it. It's fine.
Okay, cool.
You just pull up mine. It's fine.
Yeah, I'll just pull up Ben's.
Yeah.
All right, I'll be right back.
Cool. All right, Ben, what's yours about?
Well, mine is from a guy who starts off by telling us that he is 28 years old, and explains that he thinks the 2000 film Gladiator is the best film ever, and he really wants to talk about the fact that he thinks it's such a great film. He goes on to describe some scenes, but it doesn't make any sense to me because I've never seen the film. So it means nothing to me, his description of like a couple of things, and like the fact that character X says Y is amazing. The person ends by saying, I would love to see a better movie made, but I don't think any film will ever be made that's better than Gladiator. So, Irving, is Gladiator the greatest film of all time?
That's the first one. I've never heard anyone say Gladiator was the, like, sort of objectively best film of all time. Let me drill down into the reasons here. So, It's tight with the plot. Okay. The actors never lose, not for one moment. Um, I love that I hate Joaquin Phoenix as Commodus. Okay. Awesome. I mean, okay, from the beginning scene, okay, I see. Yeah, I mean, this person is very passionate about
Yes,
Gladiator.
they call it a mastercraft of cinema.
I don't know. So, well, one disclaimer: I've seen Gladiator on TV. Like, that's why I've never sought to see it properly because I've probably seen it like twice, like via, just a TV broadcast, just sitting around my house. So maybe that's not the most proper viewing of this cinematic masterpiece, and maybe I should reconsider and plop it on my projector and give it my full attention. I don't know, but it is a good movie. It's just like, I don't know, and maybe this is a style and preference thing, and well, not maybe, it probably is, but like, it's a little corny sometimes, I would say. Like, like particularly, there's some end of the ending moments that kind of made me cringe a little bit. But like, I have nothing much more bad to say about it. Like, it's a perfectly good film. There's a reason why it's so memorable to a lot of people. The acting is very, very stellar. It's very much in the style that it should be. Just a little bit larger than life. So yeah, it kind of nails everything properly. So I can't really get mad at this take, I guess. Although it's just it might be a little extreme, but I'm happy to really love it this much.
I will say there are a pretty good number of people who think that it's Hans Zimmer's best score.
Oh yeah, the score is Pirates of the Caribbean. I forgot. Sorry, it's like there's like one passage that's the Pirates of the Caribbean theme, I believe, if I'm correct, Ben.
I think so. People talk about that too in the comments.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who also mention if you like it, you should check out Master and Commander, which I've never seen. But I know my father loves the books.
Yeah. Yeah, the music is good. I think some of the more, well, actually, I don't even know if I remember it enough to comment intelligently about it. But I have like actually purposely plopped the soundtrack on because I remember it from the movie, which is always a positive thing. So yeah, I mean, but like, even then, I think it was extremely appropriate and well done. But I don't know if it's like into the stratosphere levels good. So so like my whole response to this thing is, it's a plausible reaction to a person whose subjective leanings all align with the film, and such, so it becomes your favorite film. And I'm totally down. I mean, that's totally respectable opinion, I suppose. I just don't think most people would share this opinion that it's the literal best movie of all time. That's probably not most people's opinion, and it's definitely not mine. But I respect the love for this film, I suppose. Solid movie. Yeah. All right, Nathan's back, so we can pull his up. Have you seen Gladiator, Nathan?
No, actually.
Okay. Yeah, it's pretty good. that's the short of it. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, so Nathan, what's yours about?
Okay, so the title is Films Where It's Really Obvious the Actors Are Having a Great Time, and Ones Where It's Pretty Clear They're Not. So, to summarize, the poster says that Jamie Curtis Lee, an actress, says that she absolutely loved a movie called Everything All at Once when she was shooting it. And then it was really apparent when the person was watching the film. And also got the vibes when watching Knives Out and Pride. And yeah, basically was asking like, Anyone have any similar feelings about any movies where people just seem like they're really having, good time, or ones where they're not really having a good time? It seems at least.
Oh yeah, this is something that is sometimes extremely obvious, either positive or negative in terms of how people are enjoying things. Everything, everywhere, all at once is high up on my watch list. I've just continuously heard great things about it. I can't wait to watch it. I've been keeping myself as sterile, in terms of knowing what that film is about as possible. So, kind of excited to pop that in. I have no idea what it's about. And so I can't really comment on that one. But Knives Out, I have seen. And it does seem that way. That a lot of the actors are having fun. As particularly, what's his face? James Bond. Gosh, what is his name? The actor's name?
Daniel Craig.
Yes, Daniel Craig seems to be having the time of his life in that movie. And it's infectious. It's like,
That's a good film.
Yeah, totally good film.
Whether it needs to be a franchise, I don't know. But that's what we're getting because that's the era we live in.
Yes, exactly. I agree with that sentiment entirely. But yeah, Daniel Craig having fun is really infectious. The only reason the Jurassic World movies did any numbers is because of what's his face? I'm really bad with names.
Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt. There you go. Chris Pratt having like the time of his life doing a stupid action movies is enough to make up for all the other crap surrounding the film, which is pretty much everything else. But Chris Pratt, his charisma, it's not just charisma, right? It's like you literally know he's having fun. Like, like there's smiles happening in moments that feel completely organic. There's laughter that's happening in moments that feels completely organic, and of course not completely organic, it's acting. But when the actors are delighting in the moments, it brings a little extra energy. And so there's tons of films like this. On the other side, there are films that feel like the actor was in pain the entire time because either they had to do this for whatever reason, or that's often a reason, or another often reason is that they realize that they really screwed themselves by picking up this film, and the process isn't going well. They know the movie's not going to come out well, or the production process is just an absolute mess. I'm trying to think of an example of that. I feel like there's more.
Of ones that they're not having fun.
Yeah.
So reading through the replies, it seems like a number of people are saying this Shining, but I've never seen it, so I can't really understand the sentiment.
Oh, they're probably talking about Uma Thurman in The Shining, which her literal set experience was very horrible, so that makes complete sense.
Okay.
Was it? Wait, am I getting that completely wrong? Am I embarrassing myself? Who's the actress in The Shining? I'm probably completely embarrassing myself. I'm really bad with names. Let's see here. The cast is
side note.
No, it's Shelley Duvall. Yeah. I was like,
Okay.
I was like, that's the wrong time period, isn't it? Yeah, she looks like she's having a bad time, which kind of plays well with her character. So it kind of looks like excellent acting, but from what I understand, Stanley Kubrick drove her absolutely insane during the shooting of that movie. And so yeah.
What specifically?
Well, he was quite an obsessive and not...
Okay. Yeah, I was like, I was about to ask you, like, was it just the details?
It's the details, but like he was also like, I don't think he was a terribly good person by anyone's anyone's recollection. I think he was okay with bullying people and using the filmmaking process as a, sort of excuse to bully people he didn't like. At least that's my interpretation of from the few things that I've seen about him, and I don't like that. But it is what it is. And so yeah, that makes complete sense as a reaction. The Shining. Let's see what else we got here.
Here's
22.
a hot take. I haven't seen this one yet, but I haven't seen anyone say the same thing, but it says, quote, not having fun. Almost every Christopher Nolan movie. I actually really enjoy most of his films, but that's the element that's most often missing. The one huge exception is Heath Ledger in Dark Knight. He was having the time of his life with that role, and that makes all the difference in the world. Yeah, okay. He was exactly the breath of fresh air every Nolan movie is missing. Having fun, The Princess Bride. Mandy Patinkin gives an amazing interview where blah blah sword fighting scenes having fun. Okay. Actually, when I read this at first, I thought this seems reasonable. When I read it out loud, I was like, wait a minute. Like I was literally like, oh yeah, maybe it's having fun. I thought of it for like a moment when I was reading it. I was like, wait, this sounds ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, at least I don't know about the every Christopher Nolan film movie or whatever. Although I don't know, I've watched a couple. I don't think it seems like everyone just hates being there. I don't know. They just seem maybe they seem often serious. I guess.
Yeah.
Like they just I guess it's not much. I don't know if there's much to be honestly to like have fun in like all these movies. Like it's like kind of like all these movies are kind of serious and it's not really like. I don't know, like you're gonna be smiling at nothing,
Yeah.
But yeah, the Dark Knight one, I don't know about that one. That's a bad take in my opinion.
Yeah, are you gonna say something, Ben?
The thing that comes to my mind first is Val Kilmer in Willow.
Oh, haven't seen that either. Yeah.
Although I think he's having fun also in his despite his health limitations, but I think he's also having fun in Top Gun Maverick. But I think probably the whole cast is having fun in Top Gun Maverick.
Yes, I would agree with that assessment too for Top Gun Maverick, that he was probably having a lot of fun.
Like that.
Yeah, and probably almost everyone is having fun. What's his face who played Goose? Still forgetting names. Gosh, he was having the time of his life as well. I would say, and Tom Cruise was having a lot of fun. Probably because it's one gigantic reunion for the older guys, and and for the younger ones, they get to like take up these like silly caricatures and just have fun with them. Probably told very little about what to do with them, so they just kind of do whatever they want, which is always fun. Yeah, but about the Christopher Nolan comment, I would say that, and this is actually one of my biggest criticisms of Nolan, is that his characters often come off as stiff. But I think that has to do with the writing, I don't think it has to do with the acting. I think, like, here's a good example. Gosh, what's his face again? Vampire from the infamous, what's it called? The series Twilight.
I don't know what we're talking about. Okay,
I'm really tired.
Someone mentioned like everyone on Twilight, except as one dude. I forget what it said. Everyone on Twilight seemed like they were having a bad time. Yes.
Yeah. What's his face from Twilight? He's a fantastic actor. Robert Pattinson. That's the name. Robert Pattinson. In Nolan's movie Tenet, seems to be having the time of his life, actually. And I think it's partly because he was told, you are sidekick character. Here's your script. Your lines are rather, like, unsuggestive of any particular character. And you're an action hero sidekick. Or action movies hero sidekick, whatever. And he just kind of just filled the role however he wanted to fill it. That's what it feels like, at least to me. And the way he filled it was super fun and energetic. Really brought a lot of energy to the film. I think energy that was needed in a film full of stiff characters. So I don't know if it's the actors not having fun that's the problem in Nolan's movies. I'm more likely to say that's probably just writing issues with characters, because he's very plot oriented. And then yeah, Heath Ledger having fun on The Dark Knight, I would say a resounding no. I would say that it probably caused him a lot of issues, as is displayed by the end of his life. So, yeah, I'm gonna say that he probably didn't really enjoy. I mean, it's hard for me to understand what having a good time means if it destroys your ability to sleep. So, yeah, kind of. I don't know what else to say about that one. um, and yeah, I've said this on the show before, but like, if it was a if it was a choice, obviously, and this should be obvious, but there are some people who don't believe this, which is a little disturbing to me. But I would much rather have Heath Ledger alive to do 12, 20, 40 more movies with his amazing acting skills than him just go an extra 5% to get that performance on the Joker. Um, and yeah, it's better to be alive.
Yeah, sounds reasonable.
Yeah, some people don't believe that. They're very into the anything for the shot, and I find that kind of disturbing. There's a hierarchy of goods, people. Life is kind of important. Anyway, yeah, that's all I have to say. I can't think of any more off the top of my head, at least. I could probably sit here and scroll through my letterbox, but that would take a bit. So, yeah. All right. Last one for tonight comes from me. Let me pull this one up. This one is from r/letterboxd, actually. And the post is... Pull it up here. The post is, what's a movie you decided to rewatch immediately after finishing? So it's finishing it. So it's kind of a prompt. And I just wanted to go through some of the responses and also just I didn't really think about it, besides like one thing that immediately came to mind. And here's the embarrassing answer for me, at least, the one that came to mind. The movie I rewatched immediately... It's not embarrassing, but it's not what you would think it would be. The one I immediately rewatched after watching it the first time was actually The Great Gatsby. It's probably the only one, unless I'm forgetting something. But literally, I finished it, got food and drink, came back, and rewatched it immediately. And there's some sort of... It was such a different... And I think the reason why it was so impactful to me, one of the reasons of many, is that that was when I was exploring sort of random films and filmmakers at the beginning of my sort of filmmaking awakening, as it were. And I had never seen someone... I've never seen someone be so, I guess impressionistic. That's the right word, with their way of filmmaking, and every little detail fascinated me. It was like this weird combination of digital and film, and like it was so bizarre. This clash of styles. We talked about it before on the show.
Yeah. I think we just released that episode where I talked about the music for it.
Yes. Ben talked about the music for The Great Gatsby and compared and contrast with Star Wars. One of my favorite episodes, by the way, that Ben has done.
I like that. So
yeah. So yeah, totally check that out. It's on the podcast on the channel. But yeah, that's the one that comes to mind. And the second time I watched it, it was not boring at all to watch it back to back. And that's one of the experiences that really sticks in my mind, that I was like, I really love film. It was like the thought that came after that. I was like, if I could do that, which is not something I thought I would do, and waste my time, quote unquote, that way, then there's something to this whole film thing, for me at least. Anyway, so let's see some of the responses here.
Wait, let me weigh in first.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I've done this one time, which is saying something, because I don't watch a lot of movies in general. So the fact I've done it at all is kind of weird. I mentioned this before, I watched Shoplifters twice in a row a few months ago. I watched it one day. I think I watched it the next day. I don't think I watched it, literally let me rewind it, I think I watched it the next day. And I had a plan to watch it the next day. I just never got to it, though. The reason being is that, one, I had mentioned before that I think it's a really good movie, or at least for me, not necessarily for the average person. But there were a lot of things like, okay, so the movie's very like open-ended, and like they don't spell everything out for you, like in a way that like, oftentimes in movies, characters are like open books. They're very transparent. Like at least by the end, especially, right? It's like, okay, we understand like their motivations, like what's going on here, and like what people are like. I wouldn't say it's necessarily like that in Shoplifters. So part of the reason I watched it again, one, I just liked it a lot, right? And two was like I just trying to understand these characters, figure out like what is going on in their heads right now, and trying to decipher the mess. So yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I will say actually also, and something else came to mind that I watched immediately after, but it's not a show, it's not a movie, it's a show. The first season of Stranger Things. I watched probably immediately after I watched it the first time. And still to me, the best first season I've ever seen of it, or best single season, I should say, of any show that I've ever seen. And there's a lot of subjectivity to that. I'm not saying it should be your best, or whatever, top 10. But there's a lot of reasons I really love the first season of Stranger Things.
It's the only one I've seen. I think I watched the first episode of the second season. I'm like, how are they ever gonna like go on from here?
To me, it's like one big magical. It uses all aspects of cinema very well, very high production value for a show, especially in that era. Since then, the show has not lived up to its first season at all.
I said, I watched the first episode of a second. I think I watched the first season with you.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
I've watched the first season a total of like 4 times collectively. So
okay,
yeah.
I'm pretty sure we watched it at the same time. Like we watched the first season first time together, and like just I don't know. I watched the first episode of a second season. Like, how is this like? Where is this gonna go? We're just gonna like repeat ourselves?
Yeah, it was so upsetting. The second season was like, wow. I mean, I guess we just can't carry the magical vibe forever, can we? But yeah, that's sad. But yeah, that came to mind. And then there are movies that I haven't seen like literally the same day, back to back, but I saw them like really quickly, either in showing other people, like being like, I saw this thing and I want to show other people, then show someone else like 2 weeks later and watching it alongside of them, or like just popping it on like, within a month later because it just kept sticking in my mind and I want to rewatch it. Like one of them would be Shutter Island. One of the most underrated movies of all time, in my opinion. I think that movie is one of the most interesting second watches for anyone, because it's kind of the point. But the movie literally reads different the second. Like the point of the movie is different the second time you watch it, by mechanics, like by the writing's mechanics. The second watch is necessarily a different movie. And it's one of the most genius things I've ever watched, was watching it the first time and then watching it the second time and just being amazed. And then There Will Be Blood. I've watched that movie, like, it's one of my favorite movies, if not my favorite movie. Probably watched it 5-6 times or something like that. And I watched it once, I remember, in my parents' living room years ago on Netflix, when it was on Netflix. And then I think I watched it like 2 days later again. Just like immediately. It was like, okay. But yeah, that's all that comes to mind. Let's see. Okay, so we got Shutter Island. Watched Shutter Island with some buddies, and then I went home and showed it to my dad the same night. Yeah, it's favorite movie. Totally understand that. That makes complete sense to me. One of the best movies ever made. My man Scorsese never fails to at least be interesting. Let's see. Synecdoche, New York. I have not seen that yet, although I do know what that film roughly is.
I believe that's how you pronounce it.
How you say?
I think so. I think it's Synecdoche, right? I could be wrong.
Synecdoche?
Okay, I am just wrong. Okay.
What is... I actually don't know what Mulholland Drive is about. But I've certainly been on Mulholland Drive. So.
Yeah, I don't know much about that movie either.
It's a very real, very big, very long street.
Interesting. Let's see what else we've got here. Blade Runner. Oh, different versions in one day. That sounds long.
You said all 5, I think.
Oh, that's really long. That's all day. Okay. Let's see. Clerks. I have not seen that. The Batman. That's an interesting one. I would like to know why. That's cool. It's a good movie. Kill Bill. I have that film. I have watched like an awkward amount of Tarantino films, and I need to just finish the collection. And Kill Bill 1 and 2 is like one of like 3 remaining that I need to watch, or 4 actually. So that's high on the list. Uncut Gems. I missed that movie, unfortunately. I think it was a Netflix film. Let's see. Anything else of interest? We got La La Land on here, making a representation. Everything Everywhere All at Once. I've never done this. Okay. The Master and Phantom Thread. Okay. Top Gun Maverick. Interesting. I don't know if that's the kind of film I would just immediately watch the same day. I feel like you kind of get everything you need in one day, but if you're with friends, I can see just chilling and just stupidly repeating it to have some fun. Yeah, I don't know if there's any. I was expecting some more interesting responses here.
I think for me, I would film. I think the closest thing I've gotten to like immediately rewatching, but not like literally immediately rewatching it, is Chinatown. Then, but other films I've watched, close proximity. What's it called? Oh gosh, I can't think of the name of it. Film I talked about a lot last year. That great French. Umbrellas of Cherbourg.
Yes.
Umbrellas of Cherbourg.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of my favorite films.
Yes.
It's a beautiful light film.
I see Terrence Malick making representation here with Badlands, which I have not seen yet, but I did watch one of my favorite movies as well of all time. Why am I forgetting the names of everything today? That's probably because I just drove 3 hours to get here today. I'm really burnt out. But what's the name of that film, Ben? Let's see.
What's it like?
I guess I watched The Last Vampire on Earth like probably 3 times in 1 week.
Okay.
Yeah, that's one of those showing people movies.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, I think like you showed it to me, and you're like, we need to show it to somebody else. You're like, we need to show it to somebody else. I'm like, oh, all right, I'll watch it again. I'll watch it a 3rd time.
It does have the rewatchability factor for sure.
It doesn't really get old.
No, it doesn't. That's a good one.
But that's not. I don't think that's the kind of like rewatchability that this comment is about.
No, I don't think so. Here it is. Wait, no. Wait, what? How's this not on his known for movies list? That's stupid. Let's see here. Oh, I forgot he's coming out with a film soon. Let's see. To the Wonder. Wow. I don't know why that was escaping my mind so badly. I probably watched To the Wonder, because I watched that actually with you, Ben, as well, To the Wonder for the first time.
Yeah.
And then I think I watched it probably within the next month at some point. I can't remember. Either showing someone or something like that. But, yeah, like, there's a certain amount of films that have a high rewatch rate, but necessarily not an immediate rewatch. So I guess that doesn't really fulfill the problem. But, yeah. That's pretty much my reaction to that one. Any last? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, actually, I thought something not for this Reddit post, but for the one talking about movies where people, the actors and actresses seem to be having fun or whatever, or enjoying themselves. I think an obvious example I didn't think of before is Who Killed Captain Alex. There's absolutely no way
Oh,
around
yes.
fun while making that.
Absolutely. Yes. One of my favorite comedies made of all time is Who Killed Cat, and unironically, I think a top tier comedy movie. That being said, I don't have the the most extensive comedy movie watch list, but highly recommend Who Killed Captain Alex. Everyone is having the time of their life, absolutely having the time of their life, making that film. You know, the guy, one of the people who's definitely having a ton of fun that comes to mind is the guy with the pipe as a machine gun. You know what I'm talking about, Nathan?
Yes. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Is this Bruce Yu?
Yes,
Bruce Yu hit the pipe?
Wait, no,
okay.
It wasn't Bruce Yu.
I don't know. You talking about the guy with like the black trench coat almost thing?
Yes.
Was that not Bruce Yu? I don't remember actually. But I know what you're talking about, yes.
Yeah. Stephanie Costello in the chat says, what film did Nathan just say? He said, Who Killed Captain Alex? It's a great film. You can see it.
You can actually see it for free, actually, on YouTube.
Yes.
It's on there. It's on the studio's channel. What Hollywood Films is what they're called. It's a project made by a Ugandan studio on a criminally low budget, as you can see. But it's a comedy. It's not meant to be taken seriously, which I think a lot of people might, be like, oh, what is this? And I look at the trailer, I'm like, how is this possibly good? But it's pretty funny. So.
Yes. They're making fun of Hollywood action tropes the entire time, just being absolutely absurd. And the guy with the pipe that was aforementioned, his machine gun is literally made of a pipe that's painted black, connected to a box with like these gigantic bullet chain, this belt of bullets, like cartoonish as heck. And then these people are doing shooting their guns, they're vibrating, just literally wiggling their whole bodies.
Which is interesting because actually the trope in Hollywood is the opposite, right? Is that a shoot gun, absolutely nothing happens, so there's no recoil whatsoever.
Yeah, but the guns in Who Killed Captain Alex are 10 times the power, obviously. So
that's true.
It's just too much for them to handle. Yeah, our Ugandan Bruce Lee, which we call Bruce Yu. So funny. It's so good. So yeah, highly recommend that one. And also support those people. Those people they've come out with 2 more films, 2 more feature films, maybe more now. I haven't checked up with them a little while, but check out What Hollywood Films, based out of What Hollywood, Uganda. Amazing stuff. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Cool. Are we good for the night?
Yep.
Sweet. Well, that is our show for the week. Thanks for all of you who showed up in the chat. Y'all are awesome. Love having people around to be part of the show. And it just, I don't know, it creates a nice, when I listen to these back sometimes, my favorite ones are the ones that just kind of go off the rails a little bit, but directed by the audience, not going off the rails, directed by our craziness. But it's amazing to listen to those because they're super fun and catch us off guard sometimes. So thanks for everyone who came in the chat. And if you want to join them, you can chat any of our live platforms. Whether it's YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, or Discord. You can use any of them to chat. Well, Rumble's a little complicated, but ignore that one for a moment. You can use any one of those things to chat. The chat's always on the screen as much as I can help it, so that our community is always one. But if you want to get links to any of those things, you can go to mixedmediapodcast.com, mixedmediapodcast.com, and you'll find a link to any of those things where you can follow, get a notification for our live show. Actually, I have a prompt for you this week. My prompt is related to the last prompt for me, which is, what are the films that you've watched immediately after watching them the first time? Put it in the comments. Want to hear them? I'll collect them, and if we get a few responses, I'll read them out next show, and it'll be a nice little feedback to see what you guys really loved to the point where you watched immediately, maybe the day later or something like that can count as well. And yeah, with that, shout out to two awesome people, as always, 909 Crime and Rob Sharma, for supporting us for $5 a month at mixedmedia.locals.com. You can join them at mixedmedia.locals.com. And there you can see a post with a whole bunch of... Actually, I haven't pulled this up in a while. It's loaded up in the editor, but I haven't done it. Here we go. There it is. Beautiful. These are the perks for our mixed media community on Locals. And if you're listening on audio only right now, there's a live whiteboard. If you're joining us live, it's a pretty cool thing. And we can review your stuff. You can contribute to how we pick our topics and stuff like that. And a whole bunch of other stuff that'll be rolling out. And yeah, just hope to see you there. It really helps us to keep the lights on. You know, there are a few little recurring bills here and there. And then if we get beyond that point, it helps us to catapult the podcast further. So yeah, mixedmedia.locals.com. And join us next week at Monday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Bye.
Yeah, thanks
Bye.
for watching and listening.
Okay, can I pull up the... Oh no, that is absolutely incorrect. I didn't have this at my fingertips at first, which was a big mistake. Where is my outro? This is the behind the scenes you're seeing. Did I lose my outro? Wow.
Ooh,
Oh, I was in the wrong setting. There we go. All right. Enjoy some good tunes. Bye. Oh, wrong thing. Wow, this is comedic at this point. All right. Goodbye.
Big man like me, no need for the telephone hype. I got too much getting online. One rule, then dead I'm on site. Wrong move, I bet they gon' ride. No need for the telephone hype, nah. No need for the snoozing. Big whip outside, I'm cruising. Big stick inside, no losing. Better watch out for the snake and Judas is. Don't ask them who this is. I bet they know what I'm moving in. I bet I show it into a dim. How you hate and then lose again? How you hating my vibes? Why you wasting my time? Getting hype on my line. Tell a man I don't want feedback, I just want relax. Brand new whip, two-tone, I need that brand new hit. You know, like lean back, brand new bits. I live in we pack, man, you never gon' like us. Get them on sight now, let them on light. That way they know I'm more righteous. Look at my life, I'm living alright. I'm nice, you know I'm alright. Cause looking like Christ, no need for the hype or fight or telephone vipers. No need for